3 days in between.
You offer no apology.
Sir?
And you offer no apology today and no regrets. Haven't heard the word apologize, haven't heard the word regret, haven't heard I misspoke and it was heated and I made a mistake. Haven't heard any of those words.
Sir, actually, it wasn't heated, and I'm not apologizing for pointing out your character.
Good. So you're jolly well fine, and you want the American public and the people up here to vote that may or may not vote for you to know that you supported the felonious, violent attack on me from behind.
I did not say I supported it. I said I understood it.
The hearing room fell into a tense silence as Rand Paul walked in. Calm, deliberate, and carrying what felt less like notes and more like a case file. This wasn't going to be routine oversight. This was going to be a confrontation. At the center sat MarkWayne Mullen, nominee for Secretary of Homeland Security. But before he could even settle into the rhythm of his opening statement, Paul had already set the tone. This was about his violent behavior. Why did you believe I deserved to be assaulted? What exactly are you telling the American people? Is violence your resort to solving dispute? Watch what happens when a senator walks into the hearing room prepared. Armed not with talking points, but with facts, evidence, and a purpose. Now let me tell you who Rand Paul is. He is not just another politician who climbed the ranks through party loyalty. He's a trained physician who stepped into politics with a mindset shaped by real-life responsibility. Before the Senate, he spent years as an eye surgeon, making decisions that directly affected people's lives. That background shows in how he approaches power, cautiously and with a demand for accountability. In the Senate, he proved he wasn't there to blend in. When questions about government drone strikes went unanswered in 2013 stood on the Senate floor for nearly 13 hours, forcing the issue into the open. When surveillance programs expanded, he didn't stay silent, he challenged them in court and through legislation. When criminal justice reform was politically inconvenient, he still helped push it forward. He pushed for criminal justice reform when it wasn't popular, criticized government surveillance when others stayed quiet, and continued performing free surgeries, never fully leaving behind the world he came from. You see it in how he approaches oversight. He doesn't just make broad claims. He cites specific policies, spending figures, or past testimony, then forces witnesses to respond directly. And now he's here backed with evidence, precisions, confrontation to put MarkWayne into order, and look, when he begins, it's not noise, it's precision. Every question is calculated, each one building on the last. He references prior statements, pulls from recorded facts, and lays them out one by one, leaving little room to dodge. This is not a senator guessing. This is a man constructing a case in real time. He started his argument. Years ago, I was attacked from behind in my own yard. 6 ribs broken, part of my lung damaged, months of excruciating recovery. I spent weeks unable to breathe properly, coughing up blood. And yet, you, Senator Mark Mullen, publicly said quote and unquote. You understood why this happened. Paul leaned forward, eyes locked on Mullen, voice steady but sharp. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You went on the media and called me a freaking snake, and worse, you said you completely understood why I had been assaulted. The room went silent. Every staffer, every senator, felt the weight of the accusation. I was shocked, Paul continued, each word deliberate, cutting through the pretense. That you would justify and celebrate a violent assault that caused me so much pain, and my family so much pain. He made sure to press the moral dimension. I just wonder, Senator Mullen, if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits on the proper use of force. Mullen shifted, trying to muster a defense. But Paul didn't give him an inch. You might argue you were mad and upset about being confronted by your constituents, Paul said. But Senator Mullen, your constituents are justifiably upset with you. Paul's gaze didn't waver. He continued, calling out the lie directly. You went on to brag that you had already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. Today, you have a chance. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. The room felt the tension. Mullen had nowhere to hide. Every attempt at evasion, every word of equivocation, was immediately exposed. Mullen pushed back reluctantly. He said Paul was misrepresenting him, that he never supported the attack, only that he understood it. He framed himself as blunt, direct, the kind of man who says things openly, not behind backs. But Paul didn't let that stand. He cornered him with precision. What do you think most people would interpret completely understand to mean? Mullen tried to widen the gap. Understanding is not endorsement. He insisted he doesn't believe in political violence. Paul struck again, this time with evidence. He referenced past incidents, including Mullen's near fight in a Senate hearing. Then came the line that shocked the room. Roll the tape. He said,
"You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy." Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution? Every
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Actively.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it.
If he got up too, would you have?
Mullen standing up. Stand your butt up then. We can be two consenting adults. It was raw. It was physical. It was undeniable. Paul didn't interrupt it. He let it play out, deliberately, so the room could feel it. Then he struck immediately after. If he had stood up, would you have fought him right there? Mullen didn't dodge. I would have probably jumped over the desk. That answer locked him in. So violence is your instinct in resolving disputes? Paul moved to the next layer, post-incident behavior. He quoted Mullen directly. Sometimes people just need to be punched in the face.
If not, this guy continues to get away with this stuff. And it's just, it's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you need to get punched in the face. Look.
That line shocked the room again, but Paul didn't dramatize it. He simply asked, "Do you still believe that?" Mullen tried to soften it, said he doesn't always agree with that, tried to frame it as situational. Paul immediately countered, "But you said it after the fact, after cooling down. So it wasn't heat of the moment, was it?" Now Mullen couldn't use emotion as an excuse. Paul then brought in another interview clip, this time even more damaging.
Back to the 1800s and 1700s, they used to have canings.
And duels. And they used to have duels.
Yeah. Right. And there was a way that men used to settle their differences. I prefer the David method.
But we need to move from an almost
By the
fight.
way, I'm not afraid of biting. I will bite.
Biting?
I'll bite. Yeah. I'm in a fight. I'm going to bite. I'll do anything. I mean, I'm not above it. And I don't care where I bite, by the way. It just is going to be a bite.
In hindsight, any regrets?
No, I really don't.
Don't. Paul leaned forward. This was the cornering moment. Even after reflection, even after national attention, you had no regrets? Mullen stood firm again. No. That answer narrowed his options even further. Paul wasn't done. He introduced a more subtle but dangerous line of argument Mullen had used, history. Mullen had referenced dueling in old Senate traditions. Paul flipped it. He brought up the caning of Charles Sumner and described it vividly, a senator beaten unconscious. Another holding a gun to stop intervention. Then came the question, is that the kind of precedent you're invoking? Mullen tried to retreat, said he was only referencing rules, not endorsing violence. Paul cut in, but you're normalizing it by invoking it. Now Paul circled back to the most personal, and most explosive, evidence. He repeated Mullen's statement. I understand why it happened. And then he tightened the trap. What does understand mean to the American public? Approval, or condemnation? Mullen tried to redefine it again. Understanding is not supporting. Paul didn't let that stand. You never condemned it. You never apologized. You never said it was wrong. By this point, Paul had built a layered case. On video, willingness to fight physically. On record, endorsing violent rhetoric. After reflection, no regrets. In history, invoking violent precedents. Personally, understanding an assault. Then came the closing pressure. Do you think someone with this pattern should be trusted to oversee the lawful use of force in this country? Mullen pivoted to duty again. Senator Paul, I was frustrated at the moment, and my intention was never to condone violence. Let's focus on the future. What matters now is securing the country, not rehashing old disagreements. But Paul refused the pivot. He brought it back one last time. This is about character. Paul didn't just argue. He constructed a sequence. Show the behavior. Quote the words. Remove the excuses. Force a binary answer. And each time Mullen tried to step sideways, Paul closed the gap immediately with a follow-up. By the end, Mullen wasn't silenced, but he was contained. He couldn't deny the clips. He wouldn't apologize. He couldn't fully justify them either. That's what made the moment powerful. It wasn't just confrontation. It was evidence-driven pressure, delivered in a way that left almost no room to escape without conceding something, and Mullen chose not to concede. In every scene, Paul controlled the narrative, calm, deliberate, and armed with facts, video, and quotes. Mullen, despite his efforts to pivot or justify, was cornered at every turn. He could neither undo his words nor escape the pattern that had been exposed. The hearing concluded with the central truth laid bare. Mullen had normalized violence, celebrated an assault, and showed no remorse. Paul had done more than question him. He had constructed a living record of why someone with that mindset might be unfit to lead the Department of Homeland Security, leaving the room with the weight of the evidence impossible to ignore. Mullen could not justify himself, yet couldn't apologize. In this tensed room, hearing was adjourned till 4 p.m. Today's session has exposed the past, but the future remains uncertain. To follow this story closely and see the developments at the next session, subscribe and like. We'll bring you the full follow-up on every twist in this high-stakes confrontation.